Memories is an anthology film executive produced by Katsuhiro Otomo, the man behind Akira and other classics. The movie is a compilation featuring some of the best directors in the industry. State Bomb is about a man who accidentally turns himself into a bioweapon. He's a chemist and he works for a pharmaceutical company with ties to the military. He took some pills off of his supervisor's desk, and ever since, he's been plagued by a horrible stench. It's so incredibly toxic that anything that comes into contact kills over. He runs into the Japanese self-defense force, and it's comical how nothing is able to stop him, especially when the US gets involved. Chaos ensues, and the people responsible for ending the nightmare is not anyone you would expect. The film covers the effects of Japan's poor work-life balance. It exposes the idiocy of government officials, and it gives you a behind-the-scenes look into the diplomacy between two nations. The Yamanashi Prefecture is absolutely beautiful. The opening of the film is literally a tourist commercial, which is indicative of how much love Okamura has for this place, and how accurately everything is depicted. Otomo has always had a love for realism. I looked up all kinds of toxic chemicals and it all checks out. The response time from the military, although fast, makes sense given the situation. The director spoke about going a different route. He envisioned a horror story where the residents would not know what was happening and causing people to collapse. However, either version, comedy or horror, works well with this kind of story. The second film I'll talk about is Otomo's Cannon Fodder. It features a country with an obsession for war and artillery, specifically war cannons. Cannons are on top of everyone's home as the country's an active war zone. It shows in the attire of its people and the noisiness of its atmosphere. Everyone is forced to contribute to the war effort in some way. The people are on a strict routine, and every day is filled with military drills. Everyone's actions are accounted for, and there's no fun to be had for anyone. The children are taught only to shoot a cannon. The women work in munition factories, and the men are used like livestock for operation and maintenance. The whole thing is so ridiculous that it comes off as satire. However, the comedy goes away when you realize that places like this existed in the real world. There's multiple references to a time in Germany where a guy with a certain mustache was in power. I love how everything in this film is animated in one take. This was accomplished through some sophisticated storyboarding and editing. There's so many creative transitions and cuts that make it look seamless. Last but not least is Magnetic Rose. The movie is held in high regards because of Satoshi Kon's involvement. Satoshi Kon was a director who specialized in illusionistic filmmaking. Through his writing and editing, he will blur the lines between fantasy and reality. Not only did it make for a visual spectacle, but also a great story. His stories are spooky and heartbreaking, yet fun and trippy. He had incredible range as a director. His style is opposite to Otomo, who prefers to balance realism and fantasy. Satoshi Kon, on the other hand, wanted people to enjoy the illusions that he cast. Magnetic Rose is a story set in outer space. It's supernatural and cosmic horror tied into one. It's about a crew of engineers who look through the wreckage of ships and satellites for broken parts to turn into cash. Out of nowhere, they receive an extraordinary distress call. It's a woman singing a beautiful aria, As they get closer, they realize it's coming from a space station in the shape of a rose, and they decide to investigate. The two engineers, Hines and Miguel, enter the station and are immediately inside a huge hall with marble floors, beams, and paintings. In the middle of everything is a portrait of a woman, and Miguel sees her outside in the courtyard. However, she disappears when he approaches. As they explore, nothing is as it seems, and eventually they find out more about the woman. She used to be a famous opera singer. Her passion dwindled until she met a man named Carlo. They fell in love and were engaged to marry until his sudden death. As the two engineers explore, things got really spooky. Objects fell from the ceiling, crowds of people appeared and then disappeared. Soon, they reached the bottom of the station where they found a piano. Miguel plays it and is suddenly transported to the courtyard. The woman gives him a kiss and makes her intentions clear. She wants to replace Carlos with Miguel and possibly Hines as well. She hopes to indoctrinate them both through memories to create her own Carlos, one that will never leave her. She attempts to lure in Hines as well by using the memories of his late daughter. It almost works until he snaps out of it. He resists her not once, but twice, choosing to stay in reality, no matter how painful it was. The station starts to fall apart as the woman sings among a conjured audience. She ultimately wins, setting her trance over Miguel, while Hines is adrift in space. Magnetic Rose is one of the few generally spooky anime out there. Taking into account the length and quality of the film, it's clear that Magnetic Rose is the centerpiece of the Memories anthology. Morimoto, its director, was an animator on Akira, and he's known to work on bizarre anime. The short itself gave me Resident Evil vibes. You have this huge immaculate station with all these nooks and crannies, these statues, pianos, and paintings. It's just really creepy. There's a mix of paranormal activity and science fiction. I could come up with two separate theories as to why Ava was able to control the space station. Have you ever watched that arc of Yu Yu Hakusho where Yusuke and the gang fought a bunch of psychics with extraordinary abilities that only activated within their territory? The station was her domain, and she controlled everything in it. So was she a ghost or a piece of AI gone rogue? Ava ended her fiance after being rejected the night before her wedding. She probably did herself in afterwards and has haunted the space station ever since. She seized control of all of its technology to be able to read people's minds and their hearts. I believe she targets men who are wanting for love. Men who are hurting either due to loss or loneliness. She targets these men and turns them into her lover from the past by implanting his memories into them. The whole thing is terrible and horrifying.